I hear these advertisements pretty frequently, and they pretty much go to the tune of saying, hey, a real estate agent is just going to be an unnecessary middleman that is just sitting there, with their grubby little handout asking you to pay up more money so you can go and sell your house. Well, is that true? Are realtors, are they in fact just dead weight to the real estate transaction, or do they bring something to it and help you to actually make more money on your property than you can on your own? And if that's not the case, then why are realtors still around? Well, we'll be discussing that in today's video. Before we get started though, my name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska with Keller Williams. My mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And before we get started, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Now let's go and jump into today's topic. Now, what we see usually is the advertisements say that, hey, realtors are just dead weight, like we said, and you're going to make just as much money if you sell it by yourself. Well, statistically, that is just not what we see. Normally, what we see in this market is even after paying for commissions, people who sell with a realtor make on average $12,000 more net. Okay, net is the important thing than people who try to sell it on their own. So it doesn't work as advertised, and the reason for that is really a number of simple factors. Number one, the pool of buyers you're advertising to is not going to be nearly as much and nearly as big as what you get when you're selling with a real estate agent. So when you sell with a real estate agent, you get put out on search engines. So this is different from just a website. Okay, a website is just Zillow, which Zillow does a lot. It's not everything though. A search engine though is pretty much a hub through which this information can pass to all these different websites that are out there that consumers are looking at. So if anyone's looking at the local, national, or international level, it'll get in front of them. So that's one big reason to work with an agent. You just get more options. When you go for sale by owner, you're going to be advertising usually to about 10% of the market that's out there. And this brings me to my second point, the quality of the buyers that you're going to be finding in the for sale by owner when you're going for sale by owner is going to be so much less than if you went with a real estate agent. So the reason for that is that the people that are going for sale by owner are trying to find a property that's for sale by owner. They're usually buyers that, one, can't qualify for a normal loan, and so real estate agents don't want to work with them, or two, they are investors, and these are going to be people where they're going to be trying to come in, they're going to try to underprice the property because they're investors. They're trying to get a deal. They're trying to make something work on paper. So that's perfectly fine. I'll let you decide if it makes sense for you or not to be a part of that equation. So they're going to be coming in. They're going to know that you're getting, you're not paying as much because you're not having to pay a real estate agent, and they're going to want a big cut of that savings. Because they know it's on the table, they might as well try to take as much of that as they possibly can. So you see how all these things start winnowing down how much you could actually net even after taking a real estate agent out of the entire process. And in addition to this, you're adding on all the time, all the research, all the second guessing yourself that's going to go into the entire process when you get it under contract, because this remains to be a pretty strong seller's market. It's not a question of if you can get it sold, okay? It never has been. The question is, can you maximize what you can get for it? So once you have it under contract, now begins the more tricky part, and the part with some real consequences if you start messing stuff up. And this is where all the liability is going to start crashing down onto your shoulders, because when you're working with a real estate agent is going to be there to really coach you and explain to you all the laws and the ins and outs and the stuff you need to do to make sure that you're staying out of a courtroom somewhere in the future. And this is actually the reason why the vast majority, I've heard stats as high as 82 or 88% of lawsuits in real estate involve for sale by owner. That's why, because it's more complicated than it's actually advertised, because most people, they're used to transactions with real estate agents where they don't really have to think about the process. They just go in, sign paperwork, have it explained real quick, okay, got it, next, move on. And they don't realize all the work that kind of goes on beneath the surface and all the liability that now rests on their shoulders if they mess something up. So that's another reason that you see a lot of people go with real estate agents. Before we finish today's video though, let's go and take a quick break. For those of you who've been watching for a little bit, you do know that I do have a seller guide for those of you who are considering getting your property on the market in the near future. If that's something that would interest you, do make sure you go down to my website down below, click on the link, register, and put seller guide in the comment section so I know what to send you. Now let's go and finish today's video. Now, as we've seen already up to this point, there is a lot of work that's going to be going into selling your property because you're doing all the marketing, you're coordinating all the showings, you're getting the photographer in there, and you're doing all the negotiating and trying to figure out, okay, what does this mean in the contract? What does that mean in the contract? Does this mean that? Does that mean that? How much is this? How much is that? And yeah, it's going to turn into a lot more work. And essentially, you're taking on another part-time job on top of everything else you have going on. And it's going to be getting you less money at the very end than it would if you were to work with an agent. So that's why the majority of people decide ultimately to work with a realtor to help them to get their property sold. It's not because they're stupid. It's not because they haven't heard of this brilliant new strategy. There is actually evidence showing that for sale by owner market is actually shrinking year over year compared to what you would expect to see it the opposite direction. The for sale by owner industry is not new by any stretch of the imagination. It's been around for a long, long time, but the number of people doing it is becoming less and less because at the end of the day, you do get more with a real estate agent than you would by yourself. So that's what we're seeing for the most part here in this market, and I've not really seen it change anytime recently. Even recently, the biggest losers in this past market that we've had, and we've kind of seen this in the stats, have been the for sale by owners. And the sorry thing is that you get your property under contract. It's like, yes, we did it. We got our asking price. But what they don't realize is had they gone with a realtor, especially in the past couple of years, they might have had 3 or 4 different offers or even more coming in that could have gotten that price up like another $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, plus a lot of other really good perks in the contract that they could have gotten had they really gotten that competition involved by getting their property in front of as many qualified buyers as they could. So, that's really what we've seen in this market. And unfortunately, can't turn back time, but that's unfortunately the story that I hear more often than not when I'm talking with for sale by owners. So I sure hope this has been useful for you. I sure hope this didn't come across as just selfish self-promotion or touting the real estate industry or anything like that. I'm not saying it's perfect. Not saying the results are always exactly what we want it to be, or as some real estate agents advertise it as being as well, if I'm being perfectly fair and trying to be impartial here. But by and large, the stats show the results are much better than going the for sale by owner route. And at the end of the day, the best thing we can do is just go where we know on average our chances are better and having a better outcome. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.